Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Haley. Today I am so excited because we're going to be talking about my high-end favorites from 2023. So these are the products from like Sephora that I absolutely loved this year. Before we get started, I got my hair done earlier today, and so my hair might look different from when I did the clips of me applying the makeup because I did that this morning, went to my hair appointment, came back. So I just wanted to let you guys know in case you were like, what's going on? Second, I wanted to point this out, which I know is going to be hard to see because I have my background a little bit blurred. My sister made that for me, and it says Haley J Beauty on it because she is so supportive, and it is so beautiful. It has a hibiscus on it. Hibiscus are this state flower of Hawaii. So I want to shout out to her because that is just so sweet. All right, let's get into my favorites. I'm very excited. Let's start with my favorite foundation, and I want to say this was in my favorites last year. I can't remember if it was this one or the matte version, but it is the IT Cosmetics CC Cream. I feel like every year this is a favorite of mine. There's just something about it. I mean, for me, it has the right kind of thickness. If you like a really thin foundation, this is not for you because it's definitely thick. They call it a CC cream, but it is like a high coverage foundation, but it covers so well and it lasts so well throughout the day. You can work out and it just wears off really beautifully. It doesn't look crazy, creasy or anything throughout the day. Like, you can wear this all day long and it looks so good. I wore this on New Year's Eve. I want to say I put it on maybe around 7 or 8 a.m. And then it didn't start looking bad until I would say like 11 p.m. At the end of the night, I looked in the mirror and it was breaking up in my T-zone because I get really oily in the T-zone, but I wouldn't say I noticed it until that very end of the night. So this is amazing. I used to be a really big fan of their matte version because before I went on Accutane for my acne, my skin used to be even more oily. So I really liked the matte version. And then in the last couple years, I think I've realized I mostly get oily now in the T-zone. So this is actually really beautiful and I still love it year after year. I love it so much. So this has been a favorite for sure. My other foundation favorite, I don't have anymore because it wasn't in empties, but I would say besides that foundation, it was the foundation I used the most consistently, and obviously it was in my empties. I bought it last December while I was on my honeymoon in New York. It is the NARS Light Reflecting Foundation. That foundation is really beautiful. It looks like a natural kind of foundation. It really does look like skin. I will say if you have more to cover, meaning you have a lot of blemishes that you want to cover, and that's me a lot of the time. You know, like there were certain times of the month where I would just have a lot more acne, just hormonal acne, and I wouldn't use that foundation because to me it doesn't build up very well to become a higher coverage. The coverage you get is kind of just the coverage that you get. I'd say it's like a pretty much just medium coverage. Some might say high medium, I wouldn't, but it is really beautiful and it's definitely more of a natural foundation. I really, really loved that one the first half of the year. I've used a bunch of other foundations too. I mentioned one in my drugstore favorites as well, but I would say out of like the most consistent, it would be the NARS Light Reflecting and then the IT Cosmetics CC Cream. Those are the two that I definitely use the most. Okay, this is a new favorite and I'm talking about like within the last month, but stay with me. I promise you I would not put it in here unless it were a favorite. I have to force myself to stop using this. I've used it pretty much every day since I bought it, so I know that I love it and I'm not going to change my mind. It's the Natasha Denona High Glam Concealer. This is so pretty and I know everyone's talking about it, but I promise you it's for good reason. There's just something about this that's different, and I've heard that from a lot of people, and it really is true, and it's hard to explain. You know what it kind of reminds me of is like an older, more sophisticated sister of the NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer, because this is radiant and it's definitely a little bit more like creamy, but the coverage is really good. I'd say better than that one. And there's something about the way that it blends out where it just really perfects that under eye area. And if you get a shade that's a little lighter than your skin tone, it can be super, super brightening. I love this. I wish I could say like, no, I'm different, but I'm not. This is so good. I do think for me, because I have really creasy under eyes, I have to set this one. I think if you didn't have as creasy under eyes, you probably could even get away with not setting this one. But for me, I definitely have to set it. It just looks beautiful. The coverage of it, it just, when it blends, it's just beautiful. I can't explain it. It's so gorgeous. But it does, like I said, it kind of reminds me of the Radiant Creamy, but it like an older sister. Like it's definitely better than that one. You know what I mean? So I really, really love this one, but very different from something like an e.l.f. Camo or a Tarte Shape Tape. Good coverage, not as high coverage as that. That one, it's just can get packed so quickly and so creasy. That's not this one. It's just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Next one, this might have been in my favorites last year too. It's the Anastasia Eye Primer. It's that same one. I'm still using it. What I love about this, again, you're paying a lot of money because it's from Sephora, but this has been more than a year and I'm still using this because you only need the smallest amount. What I love about this is that it is a white base, and so it really makes shadows pop. Something I will say, a little bit goes a long, long way with that. I feel like even if I put too much, as long as I keep blending, it still looks good on me. However, I did my friend's eye makeup for her wedding and she has a much more tan complexion than me. I used a little bit too much on her when we did a practice version. So on the actual day, I had to use significantly less, like just a tiny, tiny dot. So I do think if you have a deeper skin tone than me, that it's easy to go overboard. If you're around my skin tone, I think you can probably make it work. So use it very sparingly, but I do love that it is that white shade because it really makes shadows underneath pop. I use it pretty much every time. I've now purchased one from the drugstore just to mix it up a little bit, but I still like this one better. I have two palettes. This one is, again, more recent. I got it in September. I used it today. It is the Natasha Denona I Need a Nude palette. You guys, this is just, it's so pretty. I love it so much. It is just gorgeous. This is another one where I have used a lot of palettes this year, but this is one of the only ones I have wanted to reach for every single day because it's nude shades, which I love, but you almost like can't go wrong with this one. Every look I've done with this looks good. I used this palette to do my friend's makeup that I was just talking about. Her eye makeup looked really pretty for her wedding. And I don't know, there's something about this that you've got metallics in here, you've got mattes in here, you've got glitters in here. The mattes are good. They're good quality mattes, standard good quality mattes. I'll say that about the mattes, they're good. The metallics in here are pretty, very thin kind of metallics, which I kind of like because then you can build them up. So this is this Ella shade here on my hand. That took a couple swipes, but I kind of like that because if you're a beginner, I think a palette like this, if you're like just wanting to delve into the higher quality palettes, this would be a good one because you have to build it up. It's not like you're gonna dip your brush in one time and it's like boom, pigment, and then you have to figure out a way to blend it out. No, that's not this. I like that you have to build it up. To me, the knockout in here are the glitters. The glitters are so, so pretty. So one of my favorites is this shade right in the middle, Muse. It is just this really pretty glitter shade. This is the shade I use for my friend's wedding. But there's lots in here. I mean, you also have the shade Delilah, that's more of like a silvery. You have this shade here, Mia, that's like a pink. The glitters in here are gorgeous, and they are definitely the standouts from this palette. They are just absolutely beautiful, and I love them. The other palette I've used, and I would say this is the palette I have used most consistently this year, is the Huda Beauty Rose Quartz palette. This is another one that I bought on my honeymoon. I've talked about this so many times this year in videos. This is just so beautiful. It's got some color, but to me, this is a perfect palette if you've been wanting to kind of diversify a little bit in the types of looks that you do, but you don't want to go full on matte blue or something like that. This is perfect because these are just beautiful, shifty duochromes and multichromes. They always look good. That's the thing too about this one, is that if you just put a lighter shade all over, maybe a shade like this in the crease, and then you take one of the duochromes and you just tap it on, it looks beautiful every time. It doesn't matter that it's a little bit different from like other eye looks. It's just gorgeous. Some of my favorite shades, this Energized shade, anytime I wanted to do like a really glam pretty look, has been my go-to. It is just gorgeous. It's this metallic that is so taupey and pretty. It's just, I love it. I would say another favorite is this Blissful shade here, which is a shifty kind of like pink, purple, blue. It really looks different. And a lot of these can look different too, depending on the mattes you use underneath. That's what I like about them, is that you can kind of manipulate them to look the way that you want them to look. So beautiful. Anytime I wanted to do something like a little more creative, like when I was at Disneyland those 2 days, this is the palette that I used because I just wanted something, you know, a little bit more whimsical, but without being over the top. You know what I mean? I love this palette so much. This was probably my favorite palette of the year. Really close second with that Natasha Denona, but this one just has a special place in my heart, especially with the sentimental value of like buying it on my honeymoon at Disney World and everything. I love this. Okay, a favorite eyeliner that was in my empties. The Stay All Day liquid liner from Stila surprised me so much this year. I have bought that a couple different times this year, and there's a reason why it's a cult favorite. I don't normally like felt tip liners either. There's just something about it. I used to hate it, by the way. I have mentioned not liking it in videos before. So if you've been watching my videos for a while and you're like, what? You said you hated that. I did say I hated that. This is the thing about the Stila, and maybe if you've tried it and you haven't liked it, you need to do this too. You need to open it and it needs to dry out for a little while. Not to say you don't ever use it, but like I've noticed with some of the ones that I used, when I first opened it, it would kind of bleed a little bit the first few times that I used it, but after being open for maybe a week, maybe a couple weeks, it would dry out to be like perfect. And it's something about it that you can create almost a perfect wing every time. The tip is so precise that if you lean more towards the tip, you really can get a super sharp line. I didn't use it today because like I said, I'm out, but I loved that one this year. As a fun tip, they often have it at TJ Maxx. So it's a little bit old, but that might actually be to your benefit because maybe it has dried out a little bit more, although you haven't opened it. So I still feel like I had to do that with the TJ Maxx ones that I bought. But 2 different times this year, I bought it from TJ Maxx. I would go there first and see if you can find it. I even found one that was like a duo-ended one that had a green, really, really microfine tip and then the normal tip with the black. And I only used the black side, but I got it for like a fraction of the price. So highly recommend that one. I know I changed my mind about it, but try doing that. If you find it at TJ Maxx, maybe try that. Try the drying out process a little bit and see if that works for you. But it was probably my favorite liner of the year. It was really good. Followed closely by the one that was in my drugstore favorites, the J-Cat. I think the only thing that makes me like the Stila more than the J-Cat is that it's more pigmented right off the bat. Like if I was in a hurry, I would choose the Stila over the J-Cat because the J-Cat, you really have to go over it like at least 2 to 3 times to make it as dark as the Stila. But both are good. I just like the Stila just a little bit more. Favorite contour of the year. This was the first contour contour wand that I used this year, and I fell in love with it. It's what made me fall in love with contour wands. It's the Tarte Sculpt Tape. This is so pretty. I want to say this is one of the first dupes that came out for the Charlotte Tilbury one, which I've never used the Charlotte Tilbury one. This is really pretty. This is the shade Bronze. I want to say there's one that's lighter than this, but this one does work for me. It's kind of like right in the middle of a contour shade and a bronzer shade for me. It's not too warm, but it's not on the cooler side either. It's sort of like right in the middle, so it could work for either one. This, you'll see in the footage, it just blends out like a dream. I like the e.l.f. one more. I'll say that now because the e.l.f. one was in my drugstore favorites. But this is also really, really good. It blends out really well. But for the price point, I mean, if you have a little extra money and you love trying these kinds of things and you want to try it, I'd go for it. I would say this is probably my second favorite out of all of the 4 or 5 I've tried this year. So it's definitely up there for me. I still prefer the e.l.f., but if you want to try something else, this one is really, really good too. I like it a lot. Okay, for setting my under eyes, I have loved the Charlotte Tilbury pressed powder this year. I don't always love it for all over the face. Sometimes I'll use it in the T-zone, but what I like to do is take a little puff and go into the powder, and right after I kind of blend out my concealer, I will then set with this powder underneath the eyes, and it always looks very airbrushed. I mean, it does look airbrushed, it looks set, it's not too creasy because it's not a heavy powder. So I have loved this one for underneath the eyes. Okay, I have 2 more setting powders. We have the one I use today, which is the Huda Beauty Easy Bake setting powder. This is the one in, I think, Sugar Cookie. It's very, very white powder, but it can be blended out to look more translucent. This is also beautiful under the eyes. I love this. When I'm wearing a heavier foundation, I like to use this one because it is so lightweight. If you have dry skin, this would probably be a great powder for you because it is very, very, very finely milled. I know it's a setting powder, but even more so than that. It is super fine. It's a very pretty setting powder. I've loved this one this year and it's lasting me like literally forever. Another one lasting me a really long time, I've just been kind of toggling between the two, is the Makeup Forever Ultra HD powder in vanilla. This one has some coverage to it. Even though it's a loose powder, it has some coverage. So when I'm using a very, very light coverage foundation, for example, like the Missha BB cream, that one I would use a powder like this because it's gonna add just a little bit more coverage and it sets everything perfectly. Both of these powders help your makeup last all day. My excess oil doesn't get crazy. It's kind of like the perfect amount comes through by the end of the day. Of course, you could probably go more ham with these and then it would look a little bit more matte, but I love both of these. I don't think I could choose a favorite. It's just like depending on the base that you have underneath, I would choose either one or the other, but I do love both of them. Would totally repurchase both of them. Okay, another surprise for me this year. I got this one from TJ Maxx. This is the NARS Laguna bronzer. Obviously, this has been around forever. It's been a cult favorite forever. I understand the hype now. It's funny because I tried this a couple times and I was like, yeah, it's good. And then I found myself reaching for it every single time I was doing my makeup. And I was like, I guess I really like this. And I thought about it. This is like the perfect tone. I know it looks too warm in the pan, doesn't it? But when you actually put it on and you blend it out, it's kind of like a perfect bronzy tone if you have fair skin. I love this. I really, really do. It also adds a very almost airbrushed quality to your skin. I'm wearing it today. It also adds a little bit of coverage in my eyes too, not a ton, but just a little bit of coverage. And that's what I love about this. So between the tone, the coverage, the kind of blurred airbrushed look that it gives your skin, I have so loved this one this year and I'm so excited that I got it at TJ Maxx for like, again, a fraction of the price. So this one was a surprise for me, but I love it. I understand the hype. This was in my favorites last year and I feel like it's been a favorite for like 3 or 4 years. It's the MAC Glow Play Blush in the shade Blush Please. I can't get away from this, you guys. I have other blushes. This is still the #1 blush that I reach for, and I don't want to reach for any others. I have drugstore, I have other high-end. This is my favorite blush. And I love it because it just looks good every time. It's a very bouncy kind of formula because it's a cream to powder. And that's what I love is like you could blend it out under a powder, but you could also blend it out over a powder and it looks good either way. And it's something about my skin tone with the tone of this. It's a more mauve-y, like bronzy kind of tone, but it just looks perfect with almost every single eye look. I don't know how it does it. I have been dying to get another shade. I still haven't. I probably should because that blush is like really old. Guys, I might have gotten it in 2020. At the very least, I got it in 2021, which means it's very expired, but I keep using it. But that's another great thing. The product that you're getting for your money, I use that almost every day. But because it's a cream to powder, I really should get a new one. But it's so good. Like if you haven't tried that formula, you have to, because it's just so good. And I feel like even though it's MAC, you're paying a little bit more, the quality is amazing and it's literally going to last you forever. Like if you were someone that you're just getting into makeup, maybe you have like a really small collection, this used to be me, and you only have one of everything, that is the one I would want because it always looks good. Like just between the formula and the tone, it always looks good. It's beautiful. It's just a little bit glowy. It's the perfect amount of glow. But if you wanted it to be more matte, you could put a powder on top of it. It's so beautiful. This highlighter was another one that kind of snuck up on me. Like I bought it for my wedding. I ended up not using it for my wedding. But then this year I have just picked it up more and more and more and more. And then I realized like, wow, I must really love this. Kind of like the bronzer. Like I'm literally wanting to use this every day. It is the Dior Forever highlighter in Pink Glow. And I don't normally like pink highlighters, but when it's actually on the skin, again, I'm wearing it today, but it's kind of come off because again, I got my hair done and they were like washing my hair and stuff. So it was kind of splashing. This is so pretty. And it doesn't really look that pink when you swatch it. Like when it's on the skin, it doesn't look that pink. You can take a really like small highlighter brush and put it on and it's beautiful. You can take a more dense brush and it looks beautiful. It has a very strong floral scent because it's Dior. It has that same one. But this is really pretty, you guys, but it is ridiculously expensive. I put this in a short of my most expensive highlight and I had several people comment on it and be like, I would never in my life spend that much on a highlight. I feel like I wouldn't either, except for the fact that I bought it for my wedding. It's just that literally like a week before my wedding, I found the MAC Double Gleam highlighter and that was the one I decided to use. And I'm glad that I did, but this is beautiful. And again, you're paying a lot of money, but it's gonna last you probably forever. Okay, we're at the last one. Was also in my favorites last year, has been a favorite for like probably 7 or 8 years now. It's the Urban Decay All Nighter Setting Spray. I just love this. I feel like it lasts a pretty long time for me. I use it almost every day. I love to use this kind of even in between steps to sort of make my makeup melt together before the next step. I also use this at the end overall, and I'll take a beauty sponge and kind of like press the product in just a little bit better to make it blend even more. I love that this doesn't change the finish of your makeup. Some people like those that do, and I understand that, but I like that I can use this one and it's not gonna make it more matte. It's not gonna make it more glowy. It just helps your makeup last longer. So this is always a favorite. I love it. I have a little travel bottle that when I run out, I always go back to this one and like, you know, refill the travel one for when I'm traveling. So I love this. If you enjoyed this video, I hope that you will subscribe and give it a like. It does really help out my channel. If you're already subscribed, I hope you'll hit the notification bell so you get notified when I upload new videos. And I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day. Love you guys. Bye.